Hi, let's look at understanding delegates at a very basic level today. A delegate is a type-safe object that points to another method. Let us look at how a delegate is to be declared. Before that, let us look at how a function declaration is. A typical function looks like something like this: public void myfunc, that's taking an integer x as a parameter. Similarly, we have another function public integer which returns an integer. myfunc2 takes integer x as a parameter and string s another parameter. Now if I want a delegate, we saw that a delegate is a object that points to another method. So a delegate, declaring a delegate that would hold myfunc would look like something like this: public delegate void myDelegate integer x. Similarly, a delegate that can point to functions like myfunc2 would be something like public delegate int myDelegate2 integer x and a string s as a parameter. If we look at this closely, we see that the keyword delegate has been added for the delegate, and the rest looks similar to the declaration of the function. Similarly, in the second case, we see that everything is the same and the delegate is the keyword. Alright, how do we invoke a delegate? A delegate is invoked by first declaring a variable that is of the type a delegate. So here, for example, I have a function myfunc2 that takes integer x as a parameter and string s as a parameter and returns an integer. A delegate that can hold functions like myfunc2 would be something like public delegate int myDelegate2 int x and string s, as we have seen earlier. Now if I want to invoke a delegate that is of type myDelegate2, first I declare a variable mydel, for example, that is of type myDelegate2. Then I assign it to a function of the type that myDelegate2 is of, and then I would invoke the delegate by passing in the required parameters. Now at first this might look very weird, but let's look at another piece of code. Okay, let's look at this code here. Let us look at this code here where I'm having a class student, and then if I want to use that student class, what I would do is first I would declare a variable that is of type student. So s1 is of type student, and then I would either create a new object in memory and assign to it, or assign an already existing object to s1. So there are three pieces to this. One is the type of the variable, here student, and then the variable itself s1, and the actual object in memory that it is pointing to. Right? Let me go over this again. So for example, here I have a class student, that is the type of object that I want to, the type of objects that I want to create, and then I have a variable s1 that is of type student, and then an object in memory that it is actually pointing to. So similarly, the delegate is also exactly similar. So here, like for example, let us say I want to create a delegate that holds a function of type which takes an integer as a parameter. So I have a function myfunc int val. Now to a delegate that can hold of this type would be something like delegate using the keyword, and then the rest of the delegate declaration looks like the declaration of the function. So void my delegate and integer and the variable. Now, so this is the declaration of the delegate. Then when using it, what I would do is I would say f1 is of type my delegate, and then assign it to the function that is actually a real function. So here my func is the actual function, and then that is what I'm assigning to the variable of the delegate. So if we look at this way, I think it makes sense that first we declare the delegate, what are the input parameters and output parameters, then I declare a variable of that type and then assign it to the function. Alright, so let's look at this slide again here. So a delegate is a type safe object that points to a method. And how would we declare a delegate? The delegate would be exactly like the declaration of a function with the additional keyword delegate in it. And then when invoking, it would be similar to invoking the function by passing in the parameters and collecting any return parameters. Okay, now this is fine, but let's look at an example where we might use a delegate. Okay, we mentioned earlier that a delegate is a placeholder, is like an object that holds a method that can hold methods. So let us say we have a class here that is a passport office class, and this passport office class is having a delegate that takes no parameters and returns void, returns nothing. Now, and we are declaring the specific variable pp complete, which is of type event handler pp complete. So this passport office class, what it does is it has a method that says process all passports, and then calls the delegate variable pp complete. Now whoever is consuming this object, they can assign their functions to this delegate variable here, and those functions would get invoked when this method is called. Okay, let me go over this again. So I have a class here, passport office, that is having a delegate which takes void, which takes no parameters and which returns void, the type of functions that it can hold. And then when a method is called process all passports on this particular object, then it invokes this delegate. Now by invoking the delegate, what we are saying is invoke the function that this delegate is holding. So we have a student class here. Okay, we have a student class here that holds the name of the student and the country he likes to visit. And what we want to do is, once the passport is applied for the student and the passport is approved, we want the passport complete when all the passports are processed. What we want to do is we want this method here in this class to be invoked automatically. So once the processing of all the passports is complete by the passport office object, then we want this method in this student class to be invoked, apply for visa. Okay, So there is another class here, a tourist class. Similarly, the tourist would like to visit a certain country, and this lady, the whoever is the tourist, once their passport is approved, we want this method apply for visa to be automatically called. Okay, so here we have created an object pp that is of type passport office. We have two students, S1 and S2. Peter would like to go to USA to study, Sam to Australia, and we have two tourists here, P1 and P2, Mike and Tyler, who would like to go to Italy and Sweden. Now the syntax for setting the functions to be invoked to the delegate is plus equal to. So once what we are saying is this delegate here, pp complete, would hold the apply for visa for tourist 1 and tourist 2, similarly for student 1 and student 2. Okay, now after all the functions are set, we are requesting the passport to process all the passports. So let's run this and see. Okay, it's taking a little while. Okay, we see that, okay, the output is Mike got his passport and the method for applying visa has been invoked automatically. Okay, let's look at this just one more time, the passport office class. So as mentioned before, we have declared event handler pp complete to be of type delegate. We have declared a variable that is of this type, and then we are assigning the functions to pp complete to be invoked after all the passports are processed, and this is where we are setting the functions to be invoked by the setting of the functions to be invoked by the delegate. Now there is one small drawback here. Let's take a look at that. The delegate, I could even do this, like for example the delegate, I could set a function. This I'm saying is add, the plus equals to says add to the existing list of functions, whereas this is saying okay, set this function. Now what's the difference? Let us say I made a mistake, and instead of typing plus equals I just type equals. Now what would happen if I do that? Okay, what has happened is it has invoked just the, let's look at the message for S2. S2 is student. Okay, so it is saying S2 is, who is S2? S2 is Sam. Okay, so let's look at the output here again. So the function that got invoked was the object, the Sam students object. It says I, Sam, got my passport and have applied for student visa to Australia. So I made a mistake, and instead of saying plus equals I gave it an assignment operator, and thereby inadvertently by mistake I wiped out all of these. Though that was not my intention, that is what has happened. Now how do we plug that? Now let's go back to the code. Okay, in the passport there is a keyword event, and if I stick that here, now the event keyword would not allow the assignment operator. So now if you look at this, it has put the red squiggly saying I can't do that. So I am forced to use this. So that way there is no way I can make a mistake. Okay, so I hope we all got a good basic understanding of the delegates. A delegate is a type safe object that points to another method, and the declaration the declaration of the delegate looks just like a function declaration except with the keyword delegate. And when invoking a delegate, we invoke it as though we are calling the function itself with the input parameters and the and collecting any output parameters.